The Second Amendment of our Constitution is under constant assault. This amendment, which is a cornerstone of our nation's founding principles, faces relentless challenges from various quarters. Politicians and activists, driven by fear and a disdain for our individual liberties, continuously try to chip away at this fundamental right. They argue that increased regulations and restrictions are necessary for public safety, but in reality, these measures often infringe upon the rights of law-abiding citizens. They push for more laws, more restrictions, more control over law-abiding citizens. Each new regulation is presented as a solution to violence, yet these laws fail to address the root causes of crime, and instead penalize responsible gun owners. These regulations only serve to make our communities less safe. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. The Constitution does not give the federal government the power to regulate firearms. Not now, not ever. The Founding Fathers were clear in their intent to protect this right from government overreach. The Second Amendment is not about hunting or sport shooting, as some would have you believe. While these activities are important aspects of American culture, the true purpose of the Second Amendment goes far beyond recreational use. It's about the fundamental right of self-defense, a right enshrined in our nation's founding document. This right ensures that individuals have the means to protect themselves from threats, whether they come from criminals or a tyrannical government. It's about ensuring that the citizens of this great nation have the means to protect themselves, their families, and their property from any threat, foreign or domestic. The ability to defend oneself is a basic human right that should not be compromised. The relentless attacks on the Second Amendment are not just about guns, they are about control. These efforts aim to centralize power and diminish the autonomy of individuals, making them more dependent on the state for protection. They are about stripping away our freedoms little by little until we are left defenseless and at the mercy of an overreaching government. History has shown that disarming the populace is often a precursor to greater oppression and loss of liberty. We must stand firm against these attacks and defend the right of every American to keep and bear arms. This is not just a fight for gun owners, it is a fight for the preservation of all our freedoms. The Founding Fathers, the brilliant minds who built this nation on the principles of liberty and self-governance, understood the importance of a well-armed citizenry. They were visionaries who foresaw the potential threats to the freedoms they fought so hard to secure. Their experiences under British rule had taught them the dangers of a government that held too much power over its people. They knew that the right to bear arms was essential to securing all other rights. Without the means to defend themselves, the people would be at the mercy of any force that sought to oppress them. This was not just about hunting or personal protection. It is about maintaining the balance of power between the government and the governed. Their words, etched in time, leave no room for misinterpretation. The Second Amendment was crafted with deliberate care, ensuring that future generations would understand its significance. It was a safeguard, a protective measure to ensure that the hard-won liberties of the American people would not be easily taken away. Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, wrote, "The strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is, as a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny and government." Jefferson's words resonate through the ages, reminding us that the right to bear arms is a fundamental aspect of our freedom. These words are as true today as they were centuries ago. The threats to liberty may have evolved, but the principle remains the same. A well-armed citizenry is a check against the overreach of power, a reminder that the ultimate authority lies with the people. James Madison, the father of the Constitution, echoed this sentiment, stating, "The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, even in part, by the legislature." Madison's words are a clear directive, emphasizing that the government has no authority to restrict our Second Amendment rights. This was a deliberate choice, a conscious effort to protect the freedoms that define our nation. Madison's words are clear. The government has no authority to restrict our Second Amendment rights. This was not a casual statement, but a foundational principle. The Founding Fathers were acutely aware of the dangers of concentrated power and sought to prevent it through the Constitution. The Founding Fathers understood that power corrupts and that a disarmed populace is vulnerable to tyranny. They had witnessed firsthand the consequences of unchecked authority and were determined to create a system that would prevent such abuses. The right to bear arms was a crucial part of this vision, a means to ensure that the people could defend their freedoms. They enshrined the right to bear arms in the Constitution to protect us from both internal and external threats, ensuring that the power always remains in the hands of the people. This was not just a theoretical concept, but a practical measure to safeguard the liberties that are the cornerstone of our republic. The Second Amendment is a testament to the foresight and wisdom of the Founding Fathers, a reminder that the defense of freedom is a responsibility that falls to each generation. The Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to our Constitution, is a cornerstone of American society. It lays the foundation for the freedoms and liberties we cherish today. It is a testament to the foresight of our Founding Fathers, who understood the importance of protecting individual rights against government overreach. They knew that it was impossible to list every single right that we, as free individuals, possess. The complexity and diversity of human life meant that not every right could be foreseen or enumerated. The Ninth Amendment states that the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. This powerful statement underscores the idea that our rights are vast and not confined to what is written on paper. In simpler terms, this means that just because a right is not explicitly listed in the Constitution, it doesn't mean that we don't have it. The right to self-defense, for instance, is a fundamental human right. The right to protect your family is another such right. It is an inherent duty and privilege that transcends legal documentation. The right to defend your property, these are all inherent rights that pre-exist the government. These rights are part of our natural existence and are recognized by the Ninth Amendment. The Ninth Amendment ensures that these rights and countless others are protected from government infringement. It acts as a shield, preserving the freedoms that are essential to our way of life. The Founding Fathers understood that freedom is not something granted by government. It is our natural state. They believed that the role of government is to protect these inherent rights, not to grant them. The 10th Amendment is a cornerstone of our constitutional republic. It states that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. This amendment is crystal clear. Any power not specifically given to the federal government is reserved for the states or the people. The power to regulate firearms is not delegated to the federal government in the Constitution. This principle of federalism is essential to preserving liberty. It prevents the federal government from becoming too powerful and overreaching into areas where it has no business. The 10th Amendment stands as a bulwark against the ever-expanding reach of the federal government. It reminds us that we are a nation of limited government, where power flows from the bottom up, not the top down. The 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause protects the Second Amendment's right to bear arms at the state level. The Second Amendment was originally only applicable to the federal government, but the Supreme Court's 2010 ruling in McDonald v. City of Chicago established that the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause protects the Second Amendment's right to bear arms at the state level. The Second Amendment protects the right of individuals to keep and bear arms. The Supreme Court's 2008 ruling in District of Columbia v. Heller established that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to bear arms, not the state's right to maintain a militia. The 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868 and granted citizenship to the recently freed slaves and their children. It also provided all citizens with equal protection under the laws. That means your right to keep and bear arms does not end at a state line, no matter what California thinks. The 14th Amendment was intended to protect the right to keep and bear arms for newly freed slaves and white Unionists to defend themselves against Southern reprisals. The 14th Amendment protects against state infringement of the same individual right that is protected from federal infringement by the Second Amendment. Some scholars refer to the 14th Amendment as a core component of America's second founding, because it transformed the Constitution following the Civil War. In conclusion, due to the way the Constitution was written and the amendments that were added, including the 14th Amendment, no government at any level has the power to restrict or regulate the individual right to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment has no limits on the people. Its limits are on the government. The founders never wanted the government to restrict the right to bear arms in any way. There are no limits on the type of weapon or the amount of weapons you can own as an individual. The Founding Fathers expected the citizens to be just as well armed as the government, if not better armed. Laws and restrictions like the National Firearms Act of 1934 and the Gun Control Act of 1968 are unconstitutional. They are infringements on our rights that need to be removed from the books. Any law in any part of the nation that restricts our rights in any way is unconstitutional. Any politician that tries to pass or enforce a law that infringes on our rights is violating their oath of office and should be immediately removed from office and charged with treason. We must defend our rights. If not for us, do it for the future generations. Stay frosty, friends. Keep your head down and your powder dry.